Hi. When I was growing up, if somebody was super poor, they didn't have a pot to pee in, we sometimes said they were poor as Job's turkey. Now, I don't know why Job's turkey was poor. Job was a rich man, at least until Yahweh decided to use him in a game with the devil. I want to talk about this story and some important concepts we might learn from it. In the first chapter of the book of Job, we learn that Job had 7 sons and 3 daughters. They all seemed to get together quite often to eat, so they must have been a happy family. But that all ended one day when the sons of the gods all got together. Being sons of the gods, both Yahweh and Satan were there. Yahweh struck up a conversation with his brother Satan and asked Satan where he'd come from. Satan said he'd come from going back and forth on the earth and walking up and down it. Yahweh brought up his servant Job. He told Satan that Job was perfect and asked if Satan had considered Job, to tempt or torture Job or whatever. Satan said that of course Job was perfect, but he said this was because Yahweh put a hedge around everything Job had. Satan said that if Yahweh removed the hedge and allowed evil to come upon Job so that he lost all he had, Job would curse Yahweh to his face. So Yahweh, being volatile and easily enticed and provoked, took away the hedge, but instructed Satan not to touch Job himself. Satan could harm only Job's belongings, Yahweh said, which apparently included Job's children. Thus began the downfall of the house of Job. First the Sabaeans came and stole the oxen and donkeys and killed all of Job's servants, except for one that got away to tell the tale. Then another servant somehow showed up and said that Yahweh had sent down fire and killed the sheep and all of Job's servants except for him. Then another servant came along and said the Chaldeans had arrived and killed the camels and, of course, all the servants except for that one who was alive to tell the tale. Then a fourth servant showed up, telling about how Job's children were all eating and drinking wine at the home of the oldest brother, and all the young men were dead. It doesn't say the sisters died, but apparently they did. Of course, again, this servant survived to tell Job what had happened. Naturally, Job was devastated, or at least he should have been. He did tear his clothes, shave, and fall down and worship Yahweh. But he was like, oh, I was naked when I was born. No, I'll be naked when I die, so it's all good. Now, one would think that Yahweh would stop his wickedness at this point, but no. He just had to allow Satan to push him further. Thus, the same thing happened again. The sons of the gods got together again, and Yahweh asked Satan the same question, and Satan answered the same way. And again, Yahweh himself brought up Job and talked about how perfect he was, suggesting that Satan go after Job again. Well, Satan decided that Yahweh needed to allow him access to Job himself. So he said to Yahweh, skin for skin. A man will give anything for his own life. Touch his flesh, and then he'll curse you to your face. So once more, Yahweh, weak little being that he was easily tempted by his brother. Yahweh couldn't hold out at all. For the second time, he gave in to his brother's temptation. And Satan went off and attacked Job's body, from the top of his head to the bottom of his foot. Job, once again, didn't lash out at Yahweh. He said that he received the good Yahweh gave, so he had to take the bad Yahweh put on him too. The funny thing is, though, Yahweh blamed all of this on Satan. The devil made him do it, he declared. He refused to take responsibility for the deaths of Job's children and the livestock. In Job 2:3, where Yahweh sicks Satan on Job the second time, Yahweh talks about how perfect Job was and then says, he still maintains his integrity, although you incited me against him to ruin him without cause. What the crap? Satan incited Yahweh against Job? No. Yahweh incited Satan against Job. Yahweh was trying to change the narrative here. Job might have had some integrity, but Yahweh absolutely did not. And I guess we're supposed to be incapable of seeing through Yahweh's lies. As I said, we can learn some things from this story, things about both Yahweh and Satan, and we can learn about ourselves too. Number one, Yahweh is weak and unable to resist temptation, seemingly at all. He can't handle humans, always being provoked by them. And here we see that he for sure can't resist Satan. My goodness, upon the first words of Satan, Yahweh was already willing to throw his good servant Job under the bus and fall right into Satan's hands to do evil against a good man, casting what could have been a huge stumbling block in front of Job. If I lost 10 children, I don't know if I'd even have the mental capacity to worship Yahweh or do much of anything else. I'll probably end up in an insane asylum for the rest of my life. Number 2, Yahweh doesn't care about people. So what if Job didn't curse Yahweh to his face as Satan said he would, that, so that Yahweh's bragging was vindicated? Job's children died. But that meant absolutely nothing to Yahweh. We know this because he went right ahead with his stupid game with Satan to harm Job's body on top of everything else. And all just to satisfy Yahweh's big ego. Number 3, Yahweh is stupid. Not only was Yahweh easily swayed here, but he opened the door to wickedness himself. Satan hadn't said a word about Job. He apparently wouldn't have thought of touching Job in any way because of the hedge Yahweh placed around Job. So if indeed Yahweh wants good to be done in the world and truly blesses those who love him, as he claims, he doesn't know how to get good out of people or how to bless people. All he seems to know is distraction and pain and misery. And that leads me to the next thing we learn. Number 4, even if we say Yahweh knew Job would still serve him, Yahweh is evil. Sure, Job might still cling to Yahweh, but think about how awful it is to murder a man's 10 children just to prove something to your brother and nemesis. That's disgusting. It's pure evil. We all would recognize that it's evil if it was any other god or any other being. Imagine for a minute that a mother says to another woman, "My son will obey me no matter how badly I treat him. I could smack him around or kill his pets or feed him poison so that he's sick. And he's so perfect he'll still love me and do everything I say. Go ahead. Hit him yourself. Punch him in the face. Slash him with a knife across the leg. You'll see, it's wonderful." This is what Yahweh did in this story of Job. And no, it doesn't matter whether it's true or just a made-up tale. The point remains the same. The moral is that no matter what this so-called loving Father does, we're supposed to call him good and keep on loving him and worshiping him. We're supposed to say God is good all the time. God is good. How awesome is our God? Yes, he claims to be good and loving. And because he says that, Christians ignore what he actually does. He says he's like a mother hen who wants to gather his little chicks under his wings, but they won't come to him. Well, I don't know about you, but when I had little chicks, I didn't sit around waiting for them to get themselves out of danger. I went out and gathered them myself. I didn't just whine about it as they played in the street and say, "Oh, well, how often I would have liked to gather my kids under my wings where it's safe, but they want to play in the street. What are you going to do?" But it's worse than that. Yahweh is angry that his little chicks won't come to him. He's like, "I call to them and tell them how dangerous the highway is, but will they listen? No. Well, let me tell you something. I will have my revenge." Imagine a parent acting that way. And it's even worse. Yahweh's the one driving the car that's fixing to hit the kids. And worse still, he deliberately is running over his own children. Oh, and one more thing. His children have never seen him. He's a totally absent father. They don't know for sure that he even exists or what he wants. They can't hear him calling even if he does. They heard somebody say that there was a thing called a car that could kill, but they've never seen a car. Number 5, Yahweh expects of us what he can't do himself. We're supposed to resist the devil. And if we don't, we can't do what Yahweh did and say, "You incited me to hurt that good person for no reason." Oh, we can say it, but it won't fly with Yahweh. He thinks we ought to be better than he is. And we are. Nobody's as evil as Yahweh. Number 6, this was all Yahweh's doing, not Satan's. When people talk about how many humans Yahweh has killed and how many Satan has killed, they say Satan has killed 10, but has he, according to this story? First, again, Yahweh brought this on. Second, Satan was limited by the hedge and could do nothing to Job. Then Yahweh lifted his restrictions a bit, and Satan was allowed to harm Job's children and livestock. Finally, Yahweh lifted the restrictions again against not harming Job himself. Everything Satan did was done by the authority and approval of Yahweh. That's always how it is according to the Bible. What do we think? That Satan controls the wind that killed Job's children? Does he control the fire that is said here to have come from Yahweh himself upon the livestock? Does he control our health and diseases or inflammation or boils on the body? Does he control when we die, as he supposedly controlled when Job's children died? Obviously, the answer to all this is no. Yahweh controls all that. Isaiah 45:6-7 say that I am Yahweh and there is no one else. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I am Yahweh who does all these things. When we talk about this, Christians always say it doesn't mean Yahweh does evil, but only that he brings calamities. Well, I thought that's what evil was, when you make bad things happen to people. And anyway, this right here was calamitous. And it was Yahweh's doing, and I'm sorry, but it was evil too. If killing children and making a man sick aren't evil deeds, I don't know what evil is. The text under consideration here declares that this was all Yahweh's doing. As I said, he even admitted it when he said Satan had incited him, Yahweh, to do this harm. Job himself blamed it on Yahweh when he said he had to take the bad from Yahweh just as he took the good. Everybody knew who was doing this great evil. Number 7, Job should not have had to take evil from Yahweh. Yes, Job declared that if he took the good, he ought to be willing to take the bad, but is that true? Is that what we should say about our mothers and fathers? Well, sometimes they buy us ice cream, and they don't hit us most of the time. Yeah, sure, sometimes they might poison us or kill our pets or tell us we're worthless, and even the good we do is like a bloody minstrel rag. But if we take the good, we should take the bad, right? Wrong. No parent should act like that. And as I said, Yahweh promised blessings to those who obey him. Blessings, not curses. But Yahweh is a two-face. Number 8, Satan is smart. Satan knew exactly how to get to Yahweh. Yahweh played right into his hands. Not once, but twice. Fool Yahweh twice, shame on him, right? Number 9, Satan is apparently omnipresent. Yes, the Bible says he was walking to and fro, but we all know he has to be everywhere. Christians believe he can tempt me on this side of the world and tempt somebody else at the same time on the other side of the world. Everybody's tempted daily by him. Number 10, Satan is apparently omniscient. Satan seems to know exactly how to tempt even the God of all creation, let alone all of us. He's something else. He's worthy to be revered if you ask me. Number 11, based on this story, we shouldn't try to be too good. Even the Bible tells us this. It says in Ecclesiastes 7:16, don't be overly righteous, neither make yourself overly wise. Why should you destroy yourself? Exactly. Stay under the radar of Yahweh. If you try to be too good, he'll sick Satan on you. We have a clear example of this right here. We're supposed to learn from these stories, right? Romans 15:4 says that whatever things were written before were written for our learning. Well, again, we can learn a lot from the story of Job, and the biggest thing we learn is to hunker down and try to keep Yahweh from noticing us. Don't be too evil or too good. Just be kind of mediocre or lukewarm, although he says he hates that too. Well, I guess that leads me to my final point. Number 12, with Yahweh, you can't win for losing. Maybe the best thing we can do is to turn completely away from this evil monster so that he will turn completely away from us. Resist the devil and he flees from you. Probably works that way for Yahweh too. Not that any of this mess is true, of course, but if it were, these are things we could learn. As for me, I'll just ignore it all and live my life according to the dictates of my own conscience. My conscience will be, for sure, guide me better than an old book about a wicked pagan God who cares only about himself and how many people he can convince to bow down to him. Thank you all. Bye.